Maya was only 12 years old when she discovered the old map hidden inside her grandmother's wooden chest, and her heart raced with excitement as she unfolded the yellowed paper carefully, noticing strange symbols and a path that led to something called the Kingdom of Eternal Light. Her grandmother had passed away just 3 months ago, leaving Maya and her younger brother Sam to live with their uncle in the small village of Willowbrook, a quiet place surrounded by thick forests and tall mountains that seemed to touch the clouds. Sam was 9 years old and always curious about everything, so when Maya showed him the map that evening, his eyes grew wide like 2 bright moons, and he immediately wanted to know what it meant and where it led. "Do you think this is real?" Sam whispered, tracing his finger along the winding path drawn on the map, and Maya could see the wonder dancing in his eyes. She told him that their grandmother had always spoken of magical places and hidden treasures, and perhaps this map was connected to those bedtime stories they used to hear when they were younger. Their Uncle Thomas was a kind man, but very busy with his work at the village mill, so the children often had plenty of time to explore the woods near their home, always returning before sunset, as they had promised. The next morning, Maya woke up early and studied the map again, noticing that the starting point seemed to match a large oak tree that stood at the edge of the whispering forest, a place the villagers rarely visited because of the strange sounds that came from deep within. She decided that she and Sam would investigate, packing a small bag with bread, cheese, apples, and a water flask, making sure to also bring a rope and the small knife their uncle had given her for cutting herbs. Sam was excited beyond words when she told him the plan, jumping around the room and asking 100 questions about what they might find. Whether there would be dragons or fairies or maybe even a real castle made of gold. Maya reminded him to stay calm and quiet, explaining that they needed to be careful and smart about this adventure, because the forest could be dangerous for children who did not pay attention to their surroundings. They left the house after breakfast, telling their uncle they were going to pick berries near the meadow, which was not entirely a lie, since the path to the oak tree did pass through several berry bushes. The morning sun was warm and gentle, casting golden light through the leaves as they walked along the familiar trail, listening to birds singing their cheerful songs in the branches above. When they finally reached the great oak tree, Maya felt a strange tingling sensation in her fingertips, as if the map itself was responding to their presence at this ancient and mysterious location. The tree was enormous, with roots that spread across the ground like giant serpents, and a trunk so wide that 10 children holding hands could not wrap around it completely. Sam noticed something odd about one of the roots, pointing to a carving that matched one of the symbols on the map, and Maya felt her heart skip a beat with excitement and a little bit of fear. She knelt down and examined the carving closely, finding that it was shaped like a sun with 7 rays, each ray pointing in a different direction, and the longest one pointing directly into the forest. According to the map, they needed to follow this direction until they reached something called the Singing Stones, which Maya imagined must be rocks that made musical sounds when the wind blew through them. They entered the whispering forest, immediately noticing how different everything felt inside, with the air growing cooler and the light becoming softer as the thick canopy of leaves blocked much of the sun. Strange sounds surrounded them, soft whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, making Sam grab Maya's hand tightly and walk closer to her side. Maya told him not to worry, suggesting that the sounds were probably just the wind playing tricks with the leaves and branches, though she herself was not entirely sure about that explanation. They walked for what felt like hours, following the direction indicated by the carved sun, and the forest grew denser with every step they took deeper into its mysterious heart. Finally, they came upon a clearing where several tall stones stood in a perfect circle, and the moment they stepped closer, a soft humming sound began to fill the air around them. Sam gasped in amazement, realizing that the stones themselves were making the sound, vibrating gently and producing a melody that was both beautiful and somewhat haunting at the same time. Maya checked the map again, and found a new symbol she had not noticed before, one that appeared only when she held the paper up to the light filtering through the trees. The symbol showed a figure standing in the center of the stone circle, with arms raised toward the sky. And Maya understood that she was supposed to do the same thing. She walked slowly to the middle of the circle, while Sam watched nervously from outside. And when she raised her arms, the humming grew louder, and the ground beneath her feet began to glow with a soft blue light. Sam called out to her in alarm, asking if she was okay, and whether she needed help. But Maya told him to stay where he was, and not to be afraid of what was happening. The light spread across the entire clearing, illuminating ancient words carved into each of the standing stones. Words written in a language Maya had never seen before, but somehow felt familiar to her. And then something incredible happened that neither of the children could have expected or prepared for. Something that would change their lives forever, and lead them on. Greatest adventure of their young lives. The ground in the center of the circle began to open slowly, revealing a staircase made of shimmering crystal that descended deep into the earth, inviting them to discover what secrets lay waiting below. Maya looked at Sam, seeing the mixture of fear and excitement on his face, and she asked him if he was ready to find out what their grandmother had wanted them to discover. Sam nodded bravely, taking a deep breath and walking to his sister's side, and together they took their first steps down into the unknown, the crystal stairs lighting up beneath their feet with each step they took. Behind them the entrance began to close slowly, but neither of them noticed, for their eyes were fixed on the wonders that awaited them at the bottom of this magical staircase. The whispers of the forest faded away, replaced by a new sound, the distant echo of water flowing somewhere far below, and the promise of an adventure unlike anything they had ever imagined. The crystal staircase seemed to go on forever, spiraling deeper and deeper into the earth, and with each step Maya and Sam took, the air grew warmer and filled with a sweet fragrance, like honey and flowers mixed together. Sam counted the steps out loud to calm his nerve, reaching 300 before giving up and simply focusing on not tripping over his own feet on the smooth crystal surface. Maya held the map tightly in one hand and her brother's hand in the other, noticing that new details were appearing on the old paper, as if the map was alive and responding to their journey underground. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the bottom, stepping onto soft grass that glowed faintly in shades of blue and purple, unlike any grass they had ever seen in the world above. Before them stretched an enormous cavern, so vast that they could not see its walls or ceiling, and floating in the air were thousands of tiny lights, like stars that had fallen. From the night sky, Sam let out a gasp of pure wonder, his earlier fear completely forgotten as he stared at the magical landscape that surrounded them on all sides. "Is this a dream?" he asked his sister, reaching out to touch one of the floating lights, which danced away playfully before returning to hover near his shoulder. Maya shook her head slowly, equally amazed by what she was seeing, and she told him that this must be the path to the kingdom of eternal light their grandmother had spoken about. A narrow path made of white stones cut through the glowing grass, leading toward something shimmering in the distance, and the children knew they had to follow it to continue their journey. As they walked, they noticed strange plants growing on either side of the path, flowers with petals that changed colors as they watched, trees with silver leaves that tinkled like tiny bells in a breeze they could not feel. Sam wanted to stop and examine everything. Maya reminded him that they did not know how much time had passed since they entered the forest, and their uncle would worry if they were gone too long. The path eventually led them to a river that flowed with water so clear they could see colorful fish swimming at the bottom, fish with scales that sparkled like jewels in the magical light. There was no bridge to cross, and the river was too wide to jump, so Maya looked at the map again, searching for any clue about how they were supposed to continue. She found a small drawing of a boat near a symbol that looked like the river, and just as she was wondering what it meant, Sam pointed excitedly at something moving toward them on the water. A small boat was gliding across the surface without anyone rowing it, carved from what looked like a single piece of pearl, with seats just the right size for 2 children. The boat stopped at the edge of the river right in front of them, as if waiting for passengers. Maya helped Sam climb in, before carefully stepping in herself. The moment they were both seated, the boat began to move again, carrying them smoothly across the water toward the distant shore, where they could now see tall towers rising into the darkness above. Sam trailed his fingers in the water, laughing as the jeweled fish came up to nibble gently at them, tickling his skin with their tiny mouths. Maya studied the towers ahead, counting 7 of them arranged in a circle, each one made of a different colored stone that seemed to pulse with inner light. The boat brought them to a dock made of golden wood, and they climbed out carefully, their legs a little unsteady after the long journey down the stairs and across the water. Standing on the dock was the first person they had seen since entering this underground world, an old woman with long white hair and kind eyes that sparkled like the floating lights around them. She smiled warmly at the children, greeted them by name, which surprised them greatly, and she explained that she had been waiting for them for a very long time. Maya asked how the woman knew who they were, and the old woman laughed softly, saying that their grandmother had been her dearest friend and had told her all about her brave grandchildren. Sam's eyes filled with tears at the mention of their grandmother, and the old woman knelt down to his level, gently wiping his cheeks and telling him that his grandmother's love was still with them, guiding their steps. She introduced herself as Iris, the guardian of the first gate, and explained that the kingdom of eternal light was protected by 7 gates, each watched over by a guardian who tested travelers. Maya felt nervous hearing about tests, asking what kind of challenges they would have to face, and whether they were dangerous for children as young as them. Iris assured her that the tests were not about strength or fighting, but about the qualities of the heart, things like courage, kindness, wisdom, and love that existed inside every person, regardless of age. She then asked Maya why they had come to this place, what they hoped to find in the kingdom of eternal light at the end of their journey. Maya thought carefully before answering, saying that she did not really know what she was looking for, only that she felt drawn to this adventure after finding the map among her grandmother's belongings. Iris nodded thoughtfully, explaining that sometimes the most important journeys were the ones where the destination was unknown, because they allowed people to discover things about themselves they never knew. For the first test, Iris told them they needed to share a memory of their grandmother, the happiest memory they had, speaking it out loud so the first gate could hear and judge the truth in their hearts. Sam went first, his voice shaky but growing stronger as he described the time there. Grandmother had taught him to make paper boats, and they had sailed them together in the stream behind her house. He remembered how she had laughed when his boat tipped over, and how she had helped him build a better one, showing him the trick to folding the paper so it would float longer. Maya felt her own eyes growing wet as she listened to her brother, and then she shared her own memory of the nights when their grandmother would sit by her bed and tell stories about magical kingdoms and brave heroes. She remembered the warmth of her grandmother's hand holding hers, the soft sound of her voice, and the way she always ended each story by saying that the greatest magic of all was the love between people who cared for each other. When Maya finished speaking, the air around them shimmered, and a beautiful archway appeared behind Iris, made of intertwined vines, covered in flowers, that released a sweet perfume. Iris smiled with joy, telling them they had passed the first test with ease because their love for their grandmother was true and pure, the best kind of magic that existed in any world. She warned them that the path ahead would become more difficult, and that they would need to trust each other completely if they hoped to reach the kingdom at the center. Before they walked through the gate, Iris gave them each a small gift, pressing something into their palms and closing their fingers around it gently. Maya opened her hand to find a tiny crystal that glowed with soft white light, and Iris explained that it would shine brighter whenever danger was near, helping them avoid hidden threats. Sam received a small silver whistle, and Iris told him that blowing it would summon help from the creatures of this underground world, who served as friends to those with good hearts. The children thanked Iris warmly, and she hugged them both tightly, whispering that their grandmother would be so proud of how brave they were being. On this incredible journey, they walked through the archway hand in hand, feeling a warm breeze wash over them as they passed from one realm to the next, ready to face whatever challenges waited for them beyond the first gate. Behind them, Iris watched until they disappeared from sight, a single tear rolling down her cheek as she thought of her old friend and the grandchildren who carried her spirit forward into the light. The world beyond the first gate was completely different from anything Maya and Sam had seen before, with a sky that shifted between shades of pink and orange like a sunset that never ended. They found themselves standing in a vast meadow, filled with flowers that hummed soft melodies when touched, creating a symphony of gentle sounds that followed them as they walked. Sam could not resist running through the flowers, laughing as each bloom he brushed against added its voice to the growing music around him. Maya checked the map and saw that a new path had appeared, leading toward a forest of trees with bark that looked like polished silver and leaves of deep emerald green. Footsteps on the moss-covered ground, breaking the peaceful silence. After walking for some time, they heard a strange sound ahead, a low growling mixed with whimpering that made Maya's crystal begin to glow brighter in her pocket. She pulled it out and held it up, seeing the light pulse with warning. But instead of feeling afraid, she felt concerned because the whimpering sounded like something in pain. They crept forward carefully, peering around a large silver tree trunk to see a sight that made both children gasp in surprise and sympathy. A magnificent creature lay on the ground, trapped beneath a fallen tree branch, its body covered in scales that shimmered between gold and bronze, with wings folded against its sides. It was a dragon, smaller than the ones in storybooks, but still impressive, about the size of a large dog, with intelligent eyes that watched the children with a mixture of fear and hope. Sam immediately wanted to help, but Maya held him back, unsure if the creature might attack them if they got too close, even though it was clearly injured and suffering. The dragon let out another whimper, and this time Maya could see that its front leg was bent at an odd angle under the heavy branch, and she knew they could not just walk away. She told Sam to stay back while she approached slowly, speaking in a soft and gentle voice to let the dragon know she meant no harm and only wanted to help. The dragon's eyes followed her every movement, but it did not growl or snap, instead making a sound almost like a purr when Maya knelt beside it and examined the branch. It was too heavy for her to lift alone, so she called Sam over, and together they pushed with all their strength, managing to roll the branch just enough for the dragon to pull its leg free. The creature immediately tried to stand, but fell back down with a cry of pain, its injured leg unable to support its weight, and Maya's heart ached, seeing such a beautiful being in distress. She remembered the herbs and bandages her grandmother had taught her to use for injuries, and she quickly gathered soft moss to make a cushion, gently wrapping it around the dragon's leg to hold it straight. Sam used his water flask to give the dragon a drink, holding it carefully near the creature's mouth and watching as it lapped up the liquid gratefully with a forked tongue. As they cared for the dragon, it began to relax, its eyes growing less fearful and more trusting with each gentle touch from the children who had stopped to help a stranger in need. Maya noticed that around the dragon's neck was a collar with a small tag, and written on the tag in delicate script was the name Ember, along with a symbol that matched one on her map. She realized that Ember must belong to someone in this underground world, perhaps a guardian, or someone from the kingdom of eternal light itself. Sam had begun petting Ember's scales, marveling at how warm they felt under his fingers, like stones that had been sitting in the sun on a summer afternoon. Ember responded by nuzzling against Sam's hand, making happy chirping sounds that seemed to indicate the pain was becoming more bearable with the moss bandage in place. They could not leave Ember alone in the forest, so Maya decided they would wait until the dragon could walk again before continuing their journey toward the second gate. Hours passed as they sat with their new friend, sharing their remaining bread and cheese, while Ember ate some glowing berries that grew nearby, berries the dragons seemed to know were safe to consume. During this time, Maya told Ember about their grandmother and the map, about their journey through the first gate, and the kind guardian Iris who had given them gifts to help them. Ember listened attentively, tilting its head from side to side, as if understanding every word, and occasionally making soft sounds in response to the more exciting parts of the story. Sam fell asleep, curled against Ember's warm side, exhausted from the long journey and the excitement of meeting a real dragon, his face peaceful in the gentle light. Maya stayed awake, keeping watch and thinking about everything that had happened since she found the map, wondering what their grandmother would think if she could see them now. As if reading her thoughts, Ember made a gentle sound and pressed its snout against Maya's hand, offering comfort in the simple way that animals often do better than words. Eventually, Ember tested its injured leg and found that it could stand, with only a slight limp, strong enough to walk, but not yet ready to fly with its beautiful bronze wings. Maya woke Sam, and he was delighted to find that Ember wanted to come with them, walking alongside the children as they continued following the path toward the second gate. The dragon seemed to know the way, nudging them in the right direction when the path split or became unclear, proving to be an excellent guide through the silver forest. They walked for a long time, the sky above shifting to deeper shades of purple and blue, before finally emerging from the trees into another clearing. In the center of this clearing stood the second gate, much larger than the first, built from blocks of stone that glowed with inner fire, and before it stood a tall figure wrapped in a cloak of flames. Maya felt fear rise in her chest, but Ember stepped forward and made a series of chirping sounds, communicating with the fiery guardian in a language the children could not understand. The figure listened, then threw back its hood to reveal a face that was stern but not unkind, with eyes that burned like coals and hair that flickered like living flame. "I am Pyrrhus, guardian of the second gate," the figure announced in a voice that crackled like a bonfire, "and I have heard from young Ember how you stopped to help when you could have simply passed by." Maya explained that they could not have left a creature in pain, that it would have been wrong to ignore someone who needed help just to reach their destination faster. Pyrrhus nodded slowly, the flames around him dimming slightly as his expression softened, and he told them that kindness to strangers was exactly what the second test was meant to reveal. He explained that many travelers came to the gates, seeking the kingdom's treasures, but few stopped to show compassion to those they met along the way, and this made them unworthy. Because Maya and Sam had already demonstrated kindness by helping Ember without expecting any reward, they had passed the second test before even knowing what it was. The stone gate began to swing open, revealing another world beyond, this one filled with waterfalls that seemed to flow upward toward the ceiling, and islands floating in midair. To the children, and told them that Ember would continue to accompany them if they wished, for the dragon had been lost in the forest for many days after escaping from a hunter. Sam threw his arms around Ember's neck, overjoyed that their new friend would stay with them, and Ember made happy sounds that echoed through the clearing like wind chimes. Maya thanked Pyrrhus sincerely, asking if there was anything they could do for him in return for allowing them to pass so easily. The fiery guardian smiled for the first time, saying that their gratitude was gift enough, and that he hoped they would find what they were truly seeking at the journey's end. With Ember walking proudly between them, Maya and Sam stepped through the second gate, ready to face whatever wonders and challenges the next part of their adventure would bring. The world beyond the second gate took Maya's breath away, for it was a place where the normal rules of nature did not seem to apply at all. Waterfalls cascaded upward instead of down, their sparkling waters rising toward a ceiling so far above that it looked like another sky filled with crystals instead of stars. Islands covered in lush gardens floated through the air like clouds, connected by bridges made of rainbows that shimmered with every color imaginable, and some that had no name. Sam laughed with pure delight, pointing at fish that swam through the air around them, as if the atmosphere itself had become an ocean for them to play in. Ember seemed familiar with this strange place, spreading its wings and gliding short distances despite the injured leg, chirping excitedly as if showing off its home to new friends. Maya consulted the map again and saw that they needed to reach the highest floating island, where the third gate waited, along with its guardian, whoever that might be. She looked up and felt dizzy at the thought of climbing so high, but then she noticed that the rainbow bridges seemed to spiral upward, creating a path to the top. They began their climb, walking across bridges that felt solid beneath their feet, despite looking like they were made of nothing but colored light and mist. Sam wanted to know how the bridges worked, and Maya told him it was magic, which was the only explanation that made sense in a world where waterfalls flowed backward. At the third bridge they encountered a puzzle that blocked their way, a gate made of colored gems that needed to be arranged in the correct pattern to open. Maya studied the gems carefully, noticing that each one had a symbol etched into its surface, symbols that matched those she had seen throughout their journey. Sam suggested they try matching the symbols to the order they appeared on the map. Brother, for thinking of such a good idea. Working together, they rearranged the gems, with Ember helping by using its warm breath to loosen gems that were stuck, and its gentle claws to position them precisely. When the last gem clicked into place, the gate dissolved into sparkles of light, and a warm breeze carried them forward onto the next bridge as a reward for their teamwork. They continued climbing, passing through 3 more puzzle gates, each one more challenging than the last, but each one solvable when they worked together and thought carefully. Maya noticed that Sam was becoming more confident with each success, no longer looking to her for answers, but suggesting solutions of his own that often worked perfectly. She realized that this journey was changing them both, helping them discover strengths they did not know they had, and bringing them closer together as brother and sister. After what felt like hours of climbing, they finally reached the highest island, a beautiful garden filled with trees bearing fruit of every kind and flowers that glowed like lanterns. In the center of the garden stood a woman who looked like she was made of water, her form flowing and shifting constantly, with a voice like a gentle stream. She introduced herself as Marina, guardian of the third gate, and she welcomed them with warmth, saying she had watched their journey with great interest. Marina explained that the third test was about wisdom, the ability to think clearly and work together to solve problems, instead of giving up when things seemed impossible. She told them they had already demonstrated this quality by solving the puzzle gates on their way up, showing patience and cleverness that many adult travelers lacked. But she had one more question for them, a riddle they needed to answer correctly before she could open the third gate and allow them to continue. "What is something that belongs to you, but others?" she asked, pausing meaningfully, giving them all time to think. "Use it more than you do?" Marina asked, her watery eyes twinkling with curiosity about how they would respond. Sam looked confused, scratching his head and trying to think of objects that fit the description, mentioning things like toys and books, but knowing those were not right. Maya thought deeply, remembering how their grandmother used to tell them riddles by the fire, teaching them that the best answers often came from thinking about things differently. Suddenly, the answer came to her, and she smiled as she said, "It is my name, because I rarely use it myself, but everyone else calls me by it all the time." Marina clapped her hands together, sending droplets of water flying through the air like diamonds, and she declared that Maya's answer was absolutely correct. The third gate materialized before them, an archway of flowing water that somehow stayed in place without falling, creating a shimmering doorway to the realm beyond. Through, Marina gave them a warning, telling them that the next two gates would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. She said they would need to face their deepest fears and their truest feelings, and only by being honest with themselves could they hope to pass those final tests. Sam asked if it would be scary, and Marina knelt down to his level, her watery face forming into a kind smile as she told him that fear was only as powerful as he allowed it to be. She reminded them that they had already proven their love, kindness, and wisdom, and these qualities would help them face whatever challenges awaited on the other side. Ember nuzzled against Sam's hand, as if promising to stay by his side no matter what happened, and Sam felt braver, knowing he was not alone. Maya thanked Marina for her help and her kind words, asking if there was anything they should know about the guardians who waited at the fourth and fifth gates. Thoughtful, and she told them that the fourth gate was guarded by someone who could see into the hearts of all who approached and reveal the darkness hidden within. The fifth gate, she continued, was the most mysterious of all, for its guardian changed depending on who sought to pass through it, becoming whatever the travelers needed most. With this cryptic information to ponder, Maya and Sam stepped through the third gate, feeling the cool mist of the water archway wash over them like a gentle rain. On the other side, they found themselves in a world of twilight, where the light was dim and shadows stretched long across a landscape of tall, thin trees. The air was colder here, and both children shivered, pulling their thin jackets tighter around themselves as they looked for the path forward. Ember's scales began to glow more brightly, providing warmth and light for the children, proving once again how valuable their dragon friend had become. Showed a winding path through this shadowy forest, leading to a clearing where the fourth gate stood, and Maya knew they needed to be brave to reach it. Sam took her hand, and together with Ember lighting the way, they began walking into the darkness, their footsteps the only sound in this eerily quiet place. Behind them, unseen by the children, a figure watched from the shadows, its eyes glowing faintly as it observed the young travelers who dared to seek the kingdom of eternal light. The shadowy forest seemed endless, with each step taking Maya and Sam deeper into darkness that pressed against them like a heavy blanket, trying to smother their courage. Sam gripped his sister's hand tighter, and Ember walked so close that the dragon's warm scales brushed against their legs with every step, providing comfort in the gloom. Strange whispers filled the air, speaking words that sounded like their own thoughts, but twisted into something darker and more frightening than anything they truly believed. Maya heard a voice telling her she was not smart enough to protect her brother, that she would fail and let him down just like she let their grandmother down by not being there when she passed away. Tears stung her eyes, but she forced herself to remember what Marina had said about fear only having the power they gave it. and she told herself the whispers were lies. Sam heard voices too, telling him he was too small and too young to be on this adventure, that he was only slowing his sister down, and she wished he had stayed home. He felt like crying, but then remembered his grandmother's voice, saying he was braver than he knew, and he shouted into the darkness that the whispers were wrong about him. Ember let out a powerful roar, and flames burst from the dragon's mouth, illuminating the forest and chasing away the shadows that had crept so close around them. In the sudden light, they saw the fourth gate just ahead, and standing before it was a figure dressed entirely in black, with a face hidden beneath a deep hood. The figure raised one hand, and the whispers stopped immediately, leaving a silence that felt almost peaceful, compared to the cruel voices that had tormented them moments before. "I am Shade, guardian of the fourth gate," the figure said in a voice that echoed strangely, "and I know the fears you carry in your hearts, for I am the one who summoned them." Her voice only trembling a little as she said that they had heard the whispers, but chosen not to believe them, proving they were stronger than their fears. Shade slowly lowered his hood, revealing not a monster, but a young man with sad eyes and a gentle expression, someone who looked like he had known too much sorrow in his life. He explained that the fourth test was about courage, but not the kind that meant being unafraid, rather the courage to feel fear and keep moving forward anyway. He told them that everyone carried darkness inside themselves, doubts and worries and memories that caused pain, but the bravest people were those who faced that darkness honestly. Maya admitted that she was afraid of failing her brother, of not being good enough to take care of him now that their grandmother was gone and they were alone. Sam admitted that he was afraid of being a burden, of making his sister's life harder instead of easier by always needing her help and protection. Shade smiled softly, telling them that admitting their fears was the hardest part, and that by speaking them aloud, they had already taken away much of their power. The fourth gate opened behind Shade, revealing a path of golden light that cut through the remaining darkness like a warm sunrise chasing away the night. Shade told them they had only one more gate to pass, and beyond it lay the kingdom of eternal light and the answer to whatever question had brought them on this journey. He wished them well, his sad eyes growing a little brighter as he watched these two brave children who had faced their fears without running away or giving in. Maya, Sam, and Ember walked through the fourth gate into the golden light, feeling warmth spread through them and wash away the cold shadows that had settled in their bones. They emerged into a world of pure beauty, where everything seemed to shimmer with inner light, and the air itself tasted sweet like honey and summer berries. Before them stood the final gate, grander than all the others combined, made of pure light that shifted through every color like a living rainbow dancing in joy. And standing before this magnificent gate was a figure Maya and Sam recognized immediately, though they could not believe what their eyes were showing them. It was their grandmother, looking exactly as she had before her illness took her, with bright eyes and a warm smile, and arms open wide to embrace them. Sam ran forward without hesitation, throwing himself into her arms and sobbing against her shoulder, while she stroked his hair and whispered that everything was going to be all right. Maya approached more slowly, her heart aching with longing, but her mind filled with questions about how this could possibly be real when they had watched her pass away. "Is it really you?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid that speaking too loudly might make this beautiful vision disappear. Their grandmother smiled and said that she was both herself and not herself, explaining that the fifth gate's guardian took the form of whoever the travelers needed most to see. She told them she carried within her all the love their real grandmother had felt for them, all the wisdom she had wanted to share, and all the pride she would have known seeing how far they had come. Maya finally let herself cry, embracing her grandmother and her brother together, feeling a peace she had not known since before the illness had started taking their grandmother away from them. Gardens and people made of pure starlight. But before they entered, their grandmother knelt down and looked into their eyes, telling them something important they needed to hear. She said the kingdom was beautiful, but it was not their home, and the greatest treasure they would find was not gold or magic, but the understanding of what truly mattered in life. She told them that their grandmother's real gift was not the map or this adventure, but the love she had planted in their hearts, love for each other that would grow stronger every day. Maya understood now why their grandmother had left them the map, not to find treasure or magic, but to discover that they were stronger together than they ever were apart. Sam asked if they could stay in the kingdom forever, and their grandmother laughed gently, saying that their place was in the world above, with their uncle who loved them, and their friends who missed them. She gave them each a kiss on the forehead, a final embrace, telling them to remember that love never truly dies, it only changes form and continues to shine like light in the darkness. Then she took their hands and led them into the kingdom of eternal light, where the people of Starlight celebrated their arrival with songs and feasts that lasted for what felt like days. They explored every corner of the kingdom, marveling at its wonders while knowing deep down that it was time to return home where they belonged. The king of the kingdom gave them a gift to take back with them, a small crystal that contained a single drop of eternal light, which would never stop glowing and would remind them of their journey. Ember chose to stay behind, having finally found a home among the kind creatures of the kingdom. But the dragon promised to remember them always and watch over their grandmother's light. When Maya and Sam were ready, the king opened a special doorway that would take them directly back to the great oak tree at the edge of the whispering forest. They stepped through together, still holding hands, and emerged into the golden light of late afternoon, not knowing how long they had truly been gone from the world above. Their uncle was waiting for them, worried sick, but overjoyed to see them safe, and they ran into his arms and told him everything about their incredible adventure. That night, as they lay in their beds, Maya and Sam looked at the crystal that sat on the table between them. Its eternal light, a constant reminder that magic was real. And somewhere far below the earth, in a kingdom where light never faded and love never died, a guardian who looked like their grandmother smiled, knowing her grandchildren would be all right. For they had learned the greatest lesson of all, that the people we love are never truly gone as long as we carry them in our hearts and share their light with the world. Maya whispered goodnight to Sam, and Sam whispered good night to their grandmother, wherever she might be, and both children fell asleep smiling, ready for whatever adventures tomorrow might bring.